Welcome to everyone, especially to the newcomers. As this is our last year before Rosh Hashanah, I thought we should begin by focusing on a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, which is pertinent to the month of Elul. We're now in the last week of the month of Elul, as well as helps us get a bit of an understanding of what to be focused on Rosh Hashanah and what to be focused on Yom Kippur. So I'm going to hand out, this is from the Baal Shem Tov. I'm going to hand out these papers. You can follow inside if you wish to. Baal Shem Tov. I'll take it over in a moment. So last week we focused quite a bit on the Baal Shem Tov because it was just the day before Chai Elul. Chai Elul was the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. And this is a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov which was passed on by his disciple, the Maggid of Nitzavim. We mentioned a few weeks ago about the various acronyms Rosh Hashanah Elul that are connected with the month of Elul, and this is an interesting original work from the Baal Shem Tov, which is based on a pasuk in Parshas Miketz. It's based on a pasuk in Parshas Miketz. The simple meaning of the pasuk, it's talking about the interaction between the brothers of Yosef and Yaakov Avinu. You remember the brothers went down to buy food, and Yosef accused them of being spies, and he asked them a lot of questions, and they shared with him that they had a younger brother, and Yosef told them that if you want me to believe your story, you have to bring your younger brother with you the next time you come. Don't come and see me without your younger brother. So they went back up to Yaakov and they told him that the master of the land asked us a lot of questions. He accused us of being spies, and he insisted that we should bring our younger brother with him. And Yaakov was very upset, and he said that under no circumstances will I allow Binyamin to go with you. His brother, bad things happened to him when he journeyed, when he traveled, and I'm not letting Binyamin go with you. So they didn't go back. Time went by, and the food ran out, and Yaakov Avinu said to them, go back and get more food. So they said, we could have gone back a long time ago. It's you that prevented us from going back because you refused to send Binyamin with us. Had we not have tarried, we could have been back and forth twice. Had we not have tarried, we could have been back and forth twice. So the Baal Shem Tov picks up on the word shavnu. Shavnu zeh pa'amoyim. We could have returned twice. Could have returned already twice. Okay. And he points out that the word shavnu comes from the word teshuvah. Shavnu zeh pa'amoyim means two types of teshuvah. Twice teshuvah. Because we have two Yom Tovim that focus on teshuvah. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So Shavnu Zeh Pa'amoyim refers to the two types of tshuva, the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah and the tshuva of Yom Kippur. And the pasuk says, Ki lulei hismamonu. Lulei is the letters Elul. If you look at the word lulei, the second line in the paper in front of you, you'll see it's spelled Lamed Vav Lamed Aleph, which is the same letters as Elul. So lulei hismamonu, had we not have tarried, in other words, if we tarry in the month of Elul, if we take our time in the month of Elul to properly prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, with the proper soul searching and the proper tshuva as appropriate for the month of Elul, then both the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah and the tshuva of Yom Kippur are much more effective and much more easier to achieve. Sorry? So the question is, what is the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah? We're going to talk about it. Okay, so the Baal Shem Tov says as follows: Ki lula hismamanu, ki ato shavnu zeh pa'amoy. If you want to follow inside, there's a paper. Oh, thank you. Ki lula hismamanu, ki ato shavnu zeh pa'amoyim. Lula is Asius Elul, and shavnu pa'amoyim hem beis shnei efani tshuva. Shavnu pa'amoyim, return twice, refers to two types of tshuva. Aleph, the first one is tshuva klolis to Rosh Hashanah. The general tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, the Kabbalas El Malchus Shamayim, with acceptance of the yoke of the heavenly kingship. Now let me explain. There's two Yom Tovim coming up that are very similar in one sense, yet very different in another sense. They're very similar because both Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are Yomei Hadin, they're Yomim Neiroim, the days of awe, and they have a similar atmosphere to them. At the same time, there's a very stark difference between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Besides the fact that Rosh Hashanah has more of a sense of joy to it, and it's a Yom Tov, and we celebrate, eat Sudas. Yom Kippur is a fast day, but also a focus on Yom Kippur, as the question came before, is Rosh Hashanah a day of tshuva? Yom Kippur we do tshuva, right? Where's that question coming from? That question is coming from the fact that Yom Kippur we say viduyim, we take various confessions, or we say alchet so many times over Yom Kippur, and we say Hashamnu, Bagadnu, we sinned, we rebelled, we stole, we spoke foolishness, and Rosh Hashanah we don't mention a word about having sinned. In fact, in certain Siddurim, and the Alter Rebbe Siddur is one of them, even in Avinu Malkeinu, anything that has a mention of sin is omitted. So Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha is omitted on Rosh Hashanah in the Alter Rebbe Siddur. Avinu Malkeinu the Slachu Machal L'Chol Aveiseinu, or anything that has a mention of sin is omitted in Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah we don't mention sin. What's the theme of Rosh Hashanah? The theme of Rosh Hashanah is Avinu Malkeinu Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata. Our Father, our King, we have no king beside you. You are our King. HaMelech HaKadosh. Meloich al ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. We ask Hashem to reign over the entire world in your glory. So what's the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah? The tshuva of Rosh Hashanah is, and let me introduce it with a Mishnah. The Mishnah in Bracha says, Lama kadma shema l'v'hayim shamayim. Why does Shema precede v'hayim shamayim? We have three portions in the Shema, right? We have Shema, v'hayim shamayim, v'hayim. Why in that order? Why first Shema and then v'hayim shamayim? So the answer is, Kedei sheyakabel olav el malchus shamayim tchila. Might as well hold on to that. Kedei sheyakabel olav el malchus shamayim tchila, v'achar kach yekabel olav el mitzvahs. In order for that person should first accept upon himself the yoke of the heavenly kingship, and then accept upon himself the yoke of the commandments. In other words, the theme of the first portion of Shema is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hashem is our God. He's the one who provides for us. He's the one who creates us. He's the one who sustains us. He is our strength. He is our might. And He is one and only. There's nothing else besides Him. Which means we give ourselves over in absolute subservience to the Almighty, and we accept His kingship without any hesitations. Complete subservience to the kingship of Hashem. That's the theme of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. There's nothing else except Hashem. Then comes the second portion, which speaks about V'hayim Shamei Atishmu Al Mitzvosai, when you will hearken to my commandments. So it's not just about Hashem's kingship, but it's about because He's king, we also have to listen to what He instructs us. We have to obey His commandments. So if Hashem tells us to put up a mezuzah, we'll put up the mezuzah. If Hashem tells us to hear shofar in Rosh Hashanah, we'll hear shofar in Rosh Hashanah. If He tells us to bench after we eat, bench after we eat. If He tells us not to eat non-kosher food, we won't eat non-kosher food. If He tells us on Pesach we should eat matzah, and on Sukkot we should sit in the sukkah, and everything that He tells us to do, we obey to the best of our ability. So there's two things: there's Kabbalas El Malchus Shamayim, there's acceptance of the yoke of Hashem's kingship, and there's Kabbalas El Mitzvahs, acceptance of the yoke of the commandment. And the order has to be first accepting Hashem's kingship and then accepting His commandment. In other words, the first and foremost, the essential point of our relationship with Hashem is recognizing that He's the king and we're His subjects. And He's the ultimate authority. He's in charge. Once you accept in principle that Hashem is in charge, then you can discuss point number two: what exactly does He want me to do, and how do I go about doing it? But the first and most general concept is accepting Hashem's kingship. Now, when it comes to teshuvah, there's also two aspects of teshuvah. There's the teshuvah on the individual things that we might have done wrong or might not have done well enough. And there's the teshuvah on the essential relationship that we have with Hashem. Are we truly subservient to his kingship? Is he truly the authority in our lives? So there's a pasuk in Tehillim that says, "Evilim miderech tisham u'me'avonoseihem yis'anu." The Mittler Rebbe in Derech Chaim explains the pasuk as follows. He says, people fast and do tshuva from their sins, but they're missing the point. The problem is not the sins. The problem is derech tisham, the path of sin. The whole approach, the whole attitude is crooked. If you have the attitude that Hashem is the ultimate authority, he's in charge, and you submit yourself properly to Hashem's authority, then it's a whole different story. In fact, in Tanya we learned, we have tzaddik, beinani, rasha. Remember the beginning of Tanya? And we explained that what's a beinani? A beinani is someone who is perfect in every detail of thought, speech, and deed, but internally he still has to work on himself. Right? And somebody who's not perfect in thought, speech, and deed, someone who chas v'sholem fell through in doing something that he shouldn't have done or not doing something that he should have done, he's a rasha. Question is, why is he a rasha? He did 99 mitzvahs and one aveda. Why are you calling him a rasha? So in chapter 30 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains it very simply. He says, "Asher ein pachad elakim leneged eina." Because if he sins, that is a demonstration of the fact that he does not have a reverence for Hashem. Hashem is standing next to him and telling him, don't do this. And he turns to Hashem and he says, don't mind your own business. Don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want. Yeah, but the fact that the question was, maybe he just had a very strong urge and he couldn't, and it was hard for him to control himself, right? But if he would have realized that Hashem is standing right next to him and saying, I know that you have this urge, and nevertheless, I'm instructing you not to succumb to that urge. I want you to consider my presence and my will more than your urge, right? Then surely with that realization, if he accepts that Hashem is standing next to him and instructing him, and Hashem is the king, Hashem is the ultimate authority, then of course he will submit to the will of Hashem. So when a person does an Aveda, it's a lack of subservience to the kingship of Hashem. And that's called prikas oil. He's ripping off from himself the yoke of the heavenly kingship. And that's what makes him into a rasha. Until he does tshuva. If he does tshuva, he regrets what he did, and from now on he's going to be absolutely firm in his commitment to Hashem's authority, then that's a different story.
Of course, to be on that level, and from that level, making 1 out of 100 mistakes, but I think we're also human beings, like Hashem recognizes. And he's a rasha, it seems so posh.
Yes. So fine. Okay, so we're basically what's coming back to that point. That's more to do with what goes on in the first section of Tanya. But since you're asking the question, I think it's a valid question. The question was: it sounds very harsh to say a person did one thing wrong, he's a rasha. Yeah. So the point is like this: the Alter Rebbe brings home the message very strongly in the beginning of the first section of Tanya that we are human, we're not animals, and we have a brain, and we have free will, and we have the ability to make the right choices. There's no such thing as I could not help myself. I wasn't strong enough. I didn't exercise my strength enough to help myself. There's no such thing as I could not help myself. So therefore, there's two issues. I don't want to go repeat the whole introduction to the first section of Tanya, but the gist of it is that there's two parts to Yiddishkeit. One is to do the right thing, and one is to be the right thing. To do the right thing means that every action should be according to the Torah, according to Shulchan Aruch. Do what the Torah instructs you to do. Don't do what the Torah instructs you not to do. Speak what the Torah instructs you to speak. Don't speak what the Torah instructs you not to speak. Think what the Torah instructs you to think. Don't think what the Torah instructs you not to think. That's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is to transform yourself internally, emotionally. The passions should be in the right place. Your desires should be in the right place. You should be excited about the right things. And the things that are not worth getting excited about, you should not be excited about. And that takes a lot of work to transform yourself internally. So not only you shouldn't be doing the wrong thing, you shouldn't be interested in doing the wrong thing, right? So he explains that if a person is successful in both those missions, He has full control over his action, speech, and thought. And on top of that, he also permeates his inner self with the message that Ein Oid Milvado, there's nothing else except Hashem. Then he's a tzaddik. That's a madrega. That's a high level, right? And that's a level not everybody can attain. That's a tzaddik. What happens if a person is not only not internally on the right page, but also in practice he's not on the right page? In other words, he transgresses Hashem's will. And that clearly is something he had a choice not to. You don't have to be on any madrega to keep what it says in Shulchan Aruch. He's got to do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. So if he does transgress, then he's considered a rasha. Again, until he does tshuva. If he does tshuva, that's a whole different story. But for this moment, he's rejecting Hashem's authority, so that's called a rasha. If somebody's right in the middle, which means he's doing all the right things, saying all the right things, thinking all the right things, not doing the wrong things, he's not saying the wrong things, he's not thinking the wrong things. But nevertheless, internally, he's not on the right page. He's not passionate about the right things. He's not excited about the right things. In fact, sometimes he's excited about the wrong things. Sometimes he has a temptation for the wrong things. So internally, there's a lot of confusion. But externally, in his thought, speech, and deed, he's 100% on the right page. So that's called a Beinanim. He's right in the middle. And that's what the Alter Rebbe wrote, the Sefer Shel Beinanim, the book of the intermediates, to bring home to every one of us that we're capable of dealing with every situation in that way. And what exactly is the service of Hashem that is required of someone. But so the point that I'm bringing it in only over here to explain the idea that Kabbalas El Malchus Shamayim, accepting the yoke of the heavenly kingship, is a premise, is a fundamental foundation to doing the motions of Yiddish. Because first thing you have to clarify who's in charge. Right? So when we do tshuva, there's two issues to our tshuva. One part of the tshuva is a general tshuva. Have we actually made that commitment that Hashem is in charge? And how strongly have you made that commitment? How firm is that commitment? Does that commitment need strengthening? And that's what we focus on at Rosh Hashanah. And that's what Rosh Hashanah is all about, declaring Hashem king. The coronation of the king. What does it mean, the coronation of the king? At the coronation of the king, the subjects come along and they prostrate themselves before the king. And they say, you're our king. You're going to be the authority in our lives. Whatever you say, we're going to accept. Right? Of course.
Whatever reason your question, yet they get an invitation from somebody who keeps us completely. Yet they know by writing this person, they will break your feet. Surely the person who keeps them very keeps is breaking Shabbos.
I don't understand. How are they breaking Shabbos?
They're inviting somebody on Shabbos, knowing the invitee will be breaking Shabbos.
You mean because if they'll drive to them. Okay, so you're asking already a question. It's a technical question and it's a halachic issue. Generally, the guidance that you'll probably get from most Rabbanim is that if the person lives in walking distance and they're able to walk, so you're inviting them, you're not telling them to break Shabbos.
But not walking distance.
If they're not living in walking distance, it's a serious shaila, and one should consult a Rav. Right? Right. So therefore, there's two sides to the argument, and one should consult a Rav and get guidance. It's a good question. It's not simple. Your point is a very valid point. Okay.
Someone will say, Hashem is so nice. I love Hashem. So if I do something wrong, it doesn't matter. It's going to be Bafar.
Okay, so therefore, the question was, I heard someone saying, Hashem is so nice, he loves me so much, if I do something wrong, he'll let me get away with it. So the mitzvah, there's two parallel mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah to love Hashem, and there's a mitzvah to fear Hashem. Hashem is Avinu Malkeinu. He's our father and he's our king. And we need to get the right balance between knowing that on one hand, Hashem is our father, and he loves us, beyond any limits. Baal Shem Tov says, we mentioned the Baal Shem Tov before, that if we want to get a description of the love that Hashem has for every Jew, we can use the mashal of elderly parents that have an only child that was born to them after many years of praying and hoping for a child, and finally a child was born to them. The love that those parents have to that only child is only a mashal to how much Hashem loves every single Jew. And at the same time, he's our king. And since he's our king, we have to treat him with the proper reverence. And if he instructs us to do something, we do it. And if he instructs us not to do it, we don't do it. And that itself is out of his love for us, because he knows that that's best for us. So the approach that because Hashem loves me, therefore it's okay for me to stab him in the back, is not really a correct approach. I think it's quite obvious. Comes from a misconstrued idea of our relationship with Hashem. Nevertheless, if the person already sinned and he wants to come back to Hashem, then he needs to know that Hashem loves him very much, and under all circumstances, Hashem will accept him back if he does tshuva, if he truly is sorry for what he did and wants to come back to Hashem. And if a person has to do that in steps and in stages, because that's where they're up to, then that's also a possibility. That's something the person needs guidance on exactly how to go about. But the principle of here is there is the acceptance of Hashem's authority, acceptance of the yoke of heaven. And that's the theme of Rosh Hashanah. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata. Our Father, our King, we have no king other than you. Meloich al ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. Reign over the entire world in your glory. HaMelech HaKadosh, we say HaMelech. When we start before Baruch Hu, Chazan starts off with HaMelech. It's all about Hashem being king. With the bracha finishes, Melech al kol ha'aretz, king over the entire earth, Mekadosh Yisrael, v'yem hazikarim. We say that in Kiddush, we say that in Shmoneh Esrei. The whole focus is on Hashem's kingship. That's Rosh Hashanah, the tshuva klolis, the general tshuva on the concept of Kabbalas El Malchus Shema. Then, Beis, number 2, is the tshuva pratis the Yom Kippur. There's the individual tshuva, the detailed tshuva of Yom Kippur. Besides the fact that we have to accept upon ourselves Hashem's kingship, we also have to accept upon ourselves His mitzvahs, His commandments, both the positive commandments and the negative commandments. And that's where the individual tshuva of Yom Kippur comes in. Lefaret chatav, to individualize each sin. Lechapsam, to wash them. Lehitoyer, and to be cleansed from them. So these are the two tshuvas, the tshuva klolis, the general tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, and the particular tshuva of Yom Kippur. And says the Baal Shem Tov further, shtei tshuvas halalu, these two tshuvas, the tshuva of Rosh Hashanah and the tshuva of Yom Kippur, tluyos are dependent, b'cheshben hanefesh ha'adam eisa b'chedesh el. They are dependent on the soul searching and the reckoning of self that a person experiences during the month of Elul. Well, Elul is a month of Cheshbon HaNefesh, at the time when we do some calculations and soul searching about our conduct and behavior over the previous year, and we make firm resolutions for the coming year. So the way that we will succeed on Rosh Hashanah in achieving the proper tshuva, klolis of Kabbalas El Malchus Shema, and on Yom Kippur of achieving the proper tshuva, pratis, individual tshuva, of taking each individual issue and cleansing ourselves and purifying ourselves. This is all dependent on the way a person prepares himself during the month of Elul. This is the deeper meaning of the pasuk that we quoted before from Parshas Miketz. Had we had lule theisius Elul. The word lule is the same letters as the word Elul. So lule hismamanu means if a person takes his time and is lengthy in doing his soul searching during the month of Elul, then we can make both shavnus, both return. In other words, in accordance with the way the person prepared himself during the month of Elul, this is the way the avodah will be in both types of tshuva, both the tshuva, general tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, as well as the specific tshuva of Yom Kippur.
So Nasa is all
according to some of the interpretations, Nishma is Kabbalas El mitzvahs, because we have to know each mitzvah, the details of the mitzvah, in order to fulfill it. So Nasa is the essence of we're giving ourselves over, unquestioned subservience to the will of Hashem. And then Nishma is often explained as we're going to try to understand it, but it could also be that Nishma, we will hear exactly what it entails. And we will take each mitzvah and do the mitzvah. When we say, before we do a mitzvah, we say, Abracha, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvayso v'tzivanu. Right? So those words, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvayso, that He sanctified us with His commandments, v'tzivanu, when He commanded us, to light Shabbos candles, to put up a mezuzah, whatever mitzvah we're about to do. So there's two parts to the bracha. There's Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvah. Hashem has sanctified us with His commandments. In other words, that is the idea that Hashem is our King, and He has given us the incredible privilege to serve Him. Then there is, what has He asked of us? Nitzavim, and He's commanded us a specific commandment. So you could divide in the bracha and the Birchas HaMitzvahs. You could say that Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, when we say is our God, the King of the world, is the focus on His kingship. But even in the words Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvah, it's a general terminology. He has sanctified us with His commandments, meaning He's given us the privilege of making us subservient to His kingship. V'tzivanu, and He's commanded us to do such and such. However, the second, yes.
Always a bit. What happens if people do a mitzvah to get the brownie points?
Okay.
They actually don't, they just think, well, I'll get up there.
Okay, so
I'll be popular.
let me just explain the question. I think it's a very good question. The ideal way to serve Hashem is for Hashem. We love Hashem, and we consider it the greatest privilege in the world to fulfill His instructions and to fulfill His wishes and to give Him nachat ruach. Right? So the ideal way to do a mitzvah is to do it just for Hashem. However, we know just for Hashem Himself. Yeah. However, we know that Hashem rewards us for the mitzvahs that we do. He rewards us in the world to come. He rewards us in this world for certain mitzvahs, and it's a very wonderful thing. So the question is, what if a person is doing a mitzvah not for Hashem's sake? He's doing it for his sake, either because of the reward that he'll get in this world, or the reward that he'll get in the world to come, or what people will say about him, or people will see. Yeah. So a person might say, since we need to be pure and sincere, and I feel that if I do this mitzvah, it's not going to be pure, it's not going to be sincere, because I'll be distracted by the reward or by what other people will think and other people will say, perhaps I shouldn't do it. So our sages address this, and they give us the principle of a person should engage in the study of Torah and the performance of mitzvahs, even if it's for the wrong reason. Why? So, because from doing it for the wrong reason, you'll come to do it for the right reason. Now, what is the meaning of that? So, simple meaning is, you get into the habit of doing the right thing. And when you're doing the right thing, so first of all, doing one good thing leads to doing another good thing. Also, with time, you'll work on yourself, and you will try to improve that you should do it for the right reasons. But in the meantime, you're doing it. And the way Tanya explains it, that even if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and this mitzvah is trapped in the wrong intention, but later, as you progress in life, you will do tshuva for this, and you will unleash the mitzvah from where it's trapped, and it'll rise. But if you haven't done the mitzvah, there'll be nothing to elevate. So you should take every opportunity to do the mitzvahs, in order that, with time, you'll elevate them to the right place. However, there is a deeper meaning in this. Chassidus explains, mitoich shaloi lishma, bal lishma means that in the shaloi lishma, in what you're doing, and you consciously think you're doing it for the wrong reason, but there are many, many levels of your neshama that are at play over here that are working on this mitzvah. And even if the conscious levels of your being, having the wrong ideas, the wrong intentions, nevertheless, there are subconscious levels of your neshama that are very, very pure and very real. And from that perspective, it's definitely being done for the right reason. So, and that will ultimately percolate through, and it'll turn over your consciousness also into the right way. But we have to know that we have a neshama, which is very, very pure. It's a part of Hashem. And therefore, when we do something, as far as the essence of the neshama is concerned, it's definitely being done for the right reason. So it has the value of being done for the right reason, even if consciously we're not yet there. And we have to work on ourselves that our subconsciousness should also permeate our consciousness. So it's a process. Rome wasn't built in a day, and we don't transform ourselves in a day. But the first place to start is doing the right thing. Because when you do the right thing, at least the right thing has been done. And as I said, first of all, that will lead to doing more of the right thing. And then hopefully that will be there'll be an improvement in our intentions. And secondly, we have to know that even before it improves, at that very moment, there's a deeper level of our being, a deeper level of our neshama that is in the right place.
So we have to do to show them to do it from a conscious level for no reason.
Yes.
Really?
What was the question?
The question is, do we need to do teshuvah for doing a mitzvah for the wrong reason? And what does it mean to do teshuvah? It means you regret having done it for the wrong reason, and you could say, I'm going to work in the future. I'm going to work hard to do it for the right reason, right? And through that teshuvah, you unleash that mitzvah from the. You see, when you say for the wrong reason, it could be one of two things. It could be for an ulterior motive, or it could be I wasn't focused. I was just doing it by rote. I did it yesterday, so I did it again today. I didn't stop to think. So when it's just by rote, I didn't stop to think. Then the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that when you repeat that mitzvah later for the right reason, it automatically elevates the previous time you did the mitzvah. Same thing with davening. If you daven without the proper kavanah, you say over the same thing in davening in the next davening or anywhere down the line, then that elevates also the time you did it without kavanah. That's one of the reasons why it says that tefillah meluketes mikol hashana, a Shmoneh Esrei, which is put together from the entire year. You did one bit with kavanah one day, and then another bit with kavanah another day, another bit with kavanah another day, patchwork. But if it puts together a whole Shmoneh Esrei over the course of a year, that elevates all the Shmoneh Esreis of the year. That's one of the reasons why some people focus very, very strongly on the mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah, because the mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah is the ma'asef l'chol hamachnos. That's the opportunity to collect anything you might have missed out throughout the year in kavanah and davening. The mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah can sweep it all up, and you don't have to wait until the mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah. You can do it earlier. But the mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah is the last opportunity to sweep up the prayers of the year. But if a person did a mitzvah with the wrong intention, then the wrong intention becomes like to some extent, like a prison around that mitzvah. And that needs to be sorted. And for that, one has to realize that one did it for the wrong reason and intend and feel remorseful about doing it for the wrong reason and make a commitment to try and do it for the right reason. And that tshuva unleashes that mitzvah from that imprisonment and elevates it to the right place. There's a cute story they tell about the Baal Shem Tov. I can't promise that I didn't hear it from any that reliable source that I can promise that it's. This is the way the story goes. That there was once a couple that came to the Baal Shem Tov, a childless couple, came to the Baal Shem Tov, and they asked him for a blessing for a child. The Baal Shem Tov blessed them; they should have a child. It turns out that this couple, there was a decree on them in heaven that they were meant to be childless. And here the Baal Shem Tov gave them a bracha to have a child. And when a tzaddik gives a tzaddik decrees, it has to be fulfilled. So in the heavenly court, there became a big tumult. On one hand, this couple is not meant to have children. And on the other hand, the Baal Shem Tov said that they should have children. So the decree of the tzaddik has to be fulfilled. So what's going to be over here? So the heavenly court considered it backwards and forwards, and they decided that since the Baal Shem Tov decreed that they should have children, they'll have a child. However, the Baal Shem Tov, the price that the Baal Shem Tov will have to pay for this will be that he will lose his share in the world to come.
Really?
Let's the whole story.
How was he supposed to know?
If he's the Baal Shem Tov, maybe he should have known. I don't know. I wasn't there. Let me just finish the story. So the Baal Shem Tov got a sense of what was going on. That it was decreed that he was lose his share in the world to come. So he became ecstatic with joy. It was as joyous as can be. Why? He said, until today, every time I did a mitzvah, it was a challenge for me. Because on one hand, I wanted to do the mitzvah just for Hashem's sake. On the other hand, I knew that through this mitzvah, I'm earning an incredible reward in the world to come. And I know what the world to come is like. And I understand that it's incredible. So it's very tempting for me to be distracted by the reward that I'm going to get in the world to come by this mitzvah. But now that I've been told that I've lost my share in the world to come, so now all my problems are over. I can do mitzvahs with absolute dedication to Hashem. So I'm ecstatic. That's the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me. So when heavenly court saw this joy of Baal Shem Tov, how excited he is to serve Hashem just for Hashem, they reinstated his Elohim. I'm saying this story just in connection with your question about what happens if a person does something for the wrong reason. Okay? So even the Baal Shem Tov struggled with it.
Earlier, you got to the but you talked about it being like your derech, the
People fast on their sins, but they forget to focus on the path of sin, which is the lack of acceptance of the yoke of heavenly kingship.
I am thinking that what that lady's talking about, doing a mitzvah for the wrong reason, is probably more to do with your past, where you're actually looking at things in general, probably than each individual thing, and that maybe that's
saying the solution to the problem is that you should focus on. I'm picking up what you're saying. You're saying the solution to the problem is that we should focus more on the fact that Hashem is the ultimate authority, and that we should be submit ourselves to Him and be devoted to Him and be committed to Him, and then things will fall into the right place. Is that what you're saying? In fact, this is to some extent when you say Meida ani lefanecha. In the morning, you wake up. The first thing you do in the morning, you wake up and say, simple translation is, Maida means, I'm thankful. Right? I'm thankful before you, living an everlasting King, that you've returned to me my soul with compassion. Great is your faithfulness. But the word Maida doesn't only mean being thankful. The word Maida also means I submit myself. Like when there's an argument between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, and Beis Shammai submits to Beis Hillel in certain circumstances. So you're Meida. Meida means I submit myself to you. Yid gets up in the morning and he puts his cards down straight away. Hashem, I am yours. You can count on me. I'm here for you. I woke up this morning to serve you. And when you start your day with that approach, it makes a difference to the whole day. In fact, it says that if you look in the Siddur, at least in the Siddur Tilas Hashem, and then there's a point of that. And then it says Rabbi Munasech. Yeah? There's different ways of Bechemla Rabba or Bechemla Rabba Munasech. In the Siddur Tilas Hashem, there's a point after Bechemla. So one of the Rabbeim said that point, that's the essence. And that has to be spread into the rest of the day. That submission that there is in Meida Ani, that declaration of our commitment and dedication to Hashem, that is the quintessential essence of our relationship, and that has to be spread, expanded into our entire day. I'm sure it's not a silly question, but you can ask it.
Is it for a whole life or is it just once again?
It said there's a concept of tefillah meluketes mikol hashana. That is, if a person davened a little bit of each Shemona Esrei throughout the year with the right kavanah, that sweeps up all the Shemona Esreis of the year.
Also, the smoke is to be the person who was already to be the tablet. Sometimes you just don't. He's got always the background. What about someone who doesn't have the background?
You remind me of using the word background. The question was that what we said about is someone with a background, without a background. So you remind me of a story. Probably told it before, but I think it's a very fundamental story. There's a Jew in Manhattan called George Rohr. He's a very big Baltzaka, a very a big admirer of the Rebbe and of the Rebbe's work, and he once spoke. I heard him speak at a Shluchim conference, and he shared a story. He said that he came Erev Yom Kippur. He came to receive lekach, honey cake from the Rebbe. Erev Yom Kippur, the Rebbe would distribute lekach and bless people with Hoshana Toiva, Masukah, good and sweet New Year. So he stood on the queue with many people, waiting to receive a piece of lekach from the Rebbe. And as he's standing there, he's thinking to himself that all these people are here to receive something from the Rebbe. Has anybody thought about giving something to the Rebbe? And as this thought is crossing his mind, he's thinking, what would the Rebbe appreciate on Erev Yom Kippur? What can he give the Rebbe that the Rebbe would actually appreciate? And he thinks to himself, probably good news, right? Good news that everybody appreciates. So he thinks to himself, and as he approaches the Rebbe, he tells the Rebbe that Rosh Hashanah in Manhattan, we arranged a special service for beginners, for Jews with no background. And 120 people attended. Jews have never been to shul before in Rosh Hashanah. And they advertised it, and they got 120 people attended the service for Jews with no background. The Rebbe says to him, So he thought the Rebbe doesn't hear well. So he repeated it a little bit louder. And the Rebbe said again, and he realized that the Rebbe hears him very well, but he said something wrong. And he couldn't figure out, what did he say wrong? He said everything was good, right? He said 120 Jews with no background came to daven Rosh Hashanah, beautiful. The Rebbe says, did you say with no background? Every Jew has a background from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. How can there be a Jew without a background? Every Jew has the most incredible background. He's a descendant of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And according to what we learned in Tanya, he has it's passed on in his DNA to have a holy neshama that is not only just connected with God, it's a part of God. So how could you say a Jew without a background? So we have to know that every Jew has a background. The only thing is, sometimes it's a little bit covered over with a layer of dust. And we need to blow away that layer of dust and reveal the background. So we all have a little bit of dust. Some people maybe it's a little bit thicker the dust, a little thinner the dust. That's just needs a good blow.
Perhaps he used the wrong word.
The Rebbe told him to go back on Yom Kippur and tell them that we all have a background from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. No such thing as a Jew without a background.
As William said, that we already the times also about fight. That's what I thought about the background.
So there is what we have to demand of ourselves, and there's what we have to consider. Everybody's coming from a different place, and their experiences are different. And what would be considered a tremendous Kabbalah Shamayim for one person is for another person you expect more. So we have to. What you're saying is 100% true when we think about ourselves, and when we look at another Jew, we have to recognize and appreciate and value the Kabbalah Shamayim at their level.
So when we do mitzvah and nishma, and otherwise we're trying to correct ourselves, will that automatically stop that same mitzvah that's all right? Or is it just you?
Yeah, that's anytime when a mitzvah which was done without any intention is through doing the same mitzvah again with intention, you elevate.
Elevate the mitzvah, but then does it become elevated from the
time? I think from all time, yeah. As far as I understood from time. Okay.
Rabbi Gordon. Rabbi Gordon.
Someone asked something?
I'm trying to ask something.
Please.
Can you? Because I'm thinking to myself, like, if everything we do is because Hashem said, "Ein od milvado," so we have to do what Hashem says. Is there any credit due to us? Like, does Hashem credit us with the mitzvahs that we do? Is there any good in us, or we're just doing it because we've been commanded to? Like, if we help somebody, whatever we do, are we allowed to take any credit for the goodness? Because
I'm not sure I got the question right, but I'll try my best. The question was, being that we are commanded by Hashem to do things, can we get credit for doing the right thing? It's all just doing Hashem's command. So I as I said, I'm not sure I understood the question, because I think that the Almighty created us with free choice, and He created us with a nefesh habamis, an animal soul that is intrinsically selfish, and also a godly soul, which is sensitive to godliness and intrinsically selfless. When we make a choice to follow the way of our godly soul and to obey Hashem's commandments and to commit ourselves to Hashem, that is something we deserve a lot of credit for. And therefore Hashem rewards us for our mitzvahs, and therefore it's a great privilege to do a mitzvah. So I don't think the two are a contradiction. The fact that we're commanded by Hashem to do a mitzvah, when we fulfill those commandments, we deserve tremendous credit for fulfilling Hashem's commandments and listening to our godly soul rather than to our animal soul. At the same time, I would also add to that when you do a mitzvah lifnim mishuras hadin, which means going beyond the letter of the law, I'm obligated by the Torah to do it so much and so much. But because I love Hashem so much and I'm so passionate about it, I'm going to do even better. I'm going to beautify the mitzvah. Then that is extra credit. That and surely over there, I think if I understand the point that's bothering you is if we're just obeying the rules, then where's our part? So first of all, I believe that obeying the rules itself is a very important part. But on top of that, when you do it with an extra love and an extra devotion, and you put an extra beauty into the mitzvah, then that magnifies it and brings it out even more. Is that a satisfactory answer to your question?
Well, because you were saying that either we're doing what Hashem says, or maybe we're doing it for ulterior motives. So those kind of like the only two choices. So, but aren't we allowed to be good? Isn't it from out of Shama that we feel we want to help somebody? Somebody fell over, we pick them up. Whatever it is, we don't just walk past. That there's any goodness in us, that we're not doing it just because it's normal that we should do that. We're not doing it for
I'm beginning to pick up what
ulterior
you're saying.
motive.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that an ulterior motive. I think that one of the ways to serve Hashem is, Chazal say, to emulate the ways of Hashem. Hashem is kind, so you should be kind. Hashem is compassionate, so you be compassionate. So what I believe you're saying, that the fact that we have it within ourselves to care about another person, and it's not just we're reading an instruction book which says now do this, but we have it within ourselves to love, and we have within ourselves to care, and within ourselves to be compassionate. That itself is part of our service of Hashem, because Hashem wants us to emulate His ways, just like He is truly loving and truly compassionate and truly caring. He wants us to work on ourselves and to develop within ourselves a sense of true care and true compassion. There's an Hayom Yom, it says that one of the most precious things is when a person develops a gishmak, a pleasure in helping another person, to the point where the other person is more precious to him than he is to himself. That is considered a tremendous achievement. And that is also part of the service of Hashem. So I think I'm picking up what you're saying. What you're saying is you're emphasizing the value of not just going through the motions in a dry way, reading in the book. It says, now do this, and therefore do this, but also to have it within you, to have a warmth in it and a passion in it, so that when you see another person who is in need, you want to help them because you have compassion and you have love.
Right, not because you want
to emulate His ways. He is truly loving and truly compassionate and truly caring, and He wants us to be like that as well.
Right,
so
not
100%,
because...
I agree with you 100%.
Thank you. I'm saying not because we want to do it because we want to get Olam Haba, to do it because it's obviously the right thing to do. It's obviously,
Okay, I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
Sorry, what's the question?
Hashem's ways, and because he's not being able to love them. In other words, if one is happening to help somebody and one can't love them because you're taking up doing that, is that okay?
It's very much depends on the circumstance. The question is if you have to help someone, and because you have to help someone, you can't daven as you should be davening, is that okay? So I don't think that's a question that can go straight across the board. Depends who you are, where you are. If somebody else can help them, how serious is the problem? Does it really need? You can't give a sweeping question. What I could tell you is that the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, and the Rebbe told this story that the Alter Rebbe stopped in the middle of Kol Nidre, and he took off his talus and he left the shul and he went to the edge of the town and he chopped wood and made a fire and cooked a soup for a woman who had recently given birth and was left alone in the house and needed to be looked after. Her life was in danger. And the Alter Rebbe stopped his davening and went to do what he had to do, even though he could have sent someone else. So obviously helping a fellow Jew is a very, very big thing and a very good thing. Are there any other questions before we move on to at least a bit of time?
Yes. How does the Hashem's writings get recorded?
How does the Baal Shem Tov's writing get recorded? So this, what we're reading over here, is actually I was going to do this next paragraph as well. What we're reading over here was passed on by the Maggid of Mizrich to the Alter Rebbe. The Maggid of Mizrich told the Alter Rebbe that this is what he heard from the Baal Shem Tov. Okay. Now the second paragraph reads, "Amnam hachana dechedesh Elul hachana clothes." So the preparation of the month of Elul, we said the month of Elul was a preparation for both the tshuva clothes, the general tshuva of Rosh Hashanah, as well as the specific tshuva of Yom Kippur. That is generally speaking. There also needs to be an individual preparation, a specific preparation. The specific preparation for the service of Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, which is acceptance of Hashem's kingship, is specifically in the days of Slichus that we find ourselves in right now. the bakashas rachmim etachnunim, by pleading for divine mercy and pleading kavadim hamischanim aladeinam, like servants who plead with their master. Bebakashas slicha, ask for forgiveness. Ba'avanas ha'emes lecha Hashem atzdaka. There's a pasuk which we say continuously in slichas. Lecha Hashem atzdaka. To you Hashem is righteousness and kindness. V'lanu beishas hapanim, and we have shameful faces. So understanding the truth of what it means that Hashem is forever generous and kind, and that we have shameful faces. In other words, we don't feel deserving of anything that Hashem gives us, and therefore we feel that we need to really work on ourselves. So the specific preparation for the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah is in the days of Slichas. And the specific preparation for the service of Yom Kippur is on the days between Rosh Hashanah. Is called Keseh, it's called for that for a number of reasons. It's the word Keseh means the appointed time. It's the appointed time when Hashem judges the world. And it's also called Keseh because it's the time that it's the only Yom Tif when the moon is completely covered. Normally the Yom Tovim are the middle of the month. Pesach and Sukkot are on the 15th of the month. Even Shavuos is on the 6th of the month. But the Yom Tif, Kippur is on the 10th of the month. The Yom Tif that comes out when the moon is completely covered under Shchedesh itself is Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, it's called Tiku B'Chedesh Shofar B'Keseh L'Yom Chageinu. On the day when the Chedesh, the moon, is covered, that's the day when we blow shofar. So that Rosh Hashanah is called Keseh. Yom Kippur is called Aser, 10th of Aser L'Chedesh Hashvi, on the 10th of. So the phrase being Keseh La Aser, between Keseh and Aser, means between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now, as you make Shuvah, that's when we focus on the specific preparation for Yom Kippur. So generally speaking, the whole month of El is a preparation both for Rosh Hashanah and for Yom Kippur. More specifically, the days that we find ourselves in right now, leading up to Rosh Hashanah, Yemei HaSlichos, are a specific preparation for Rosh Hashanah, and the days of Aseret Yemei Teshuvah are a specific preparation for Yom Kippur. So just as we're coming to the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, I think it's kedai to mention, I think maybe last year we elaborated on this, I'll just mention it short. This famous question that's asked, normally on the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh, we say Birchas HaChodesh. We say the blessing of the new moon. This Shabbos is the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. So if every month we say a special blessing that the month that's coming should be for blessing and to bring us life and joy and everything else, why is it that on the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah we don't say Birchas HaChodesh? Shabbos, Chodesh mentioned to say the blessing for the new month. So there are various answers given, but there is a beautiful answer that is given by the Baal Shem Tov. And again, this is recorded by the Mezusha Maggid, gave it over to the Alter Rebbe. The background is also how it came to us is also very beautiful. The Rebbe Rashab was the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, father of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the Rebbe Rashab had a student Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, Tov Reish Nun Ches, which is going back to 1888. So 1898. So he said that when he was a child, he wondered, why is it that on the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, we don't say Birchas HaChodesh, we don't bless the new moon? So he asked his father, the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash said, actually, when I was a child, I was also bothered by that question. And I asked my father, the Tzemach Tzedek. And my father, the Tzemach Tzedek, told me that when he was a child, he was also bothered by this question. And he asked this question of his grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya. And the Baal Tanya said to him, when I was in Mizrich, I studied under the Maggid of Mizrich, he told me what the Baal Shem Tov said about this. What did the Baal Shem Tov say? The Baal Shem Tov said, it's actually tomorrow's Hayom Yom, that the last Shabbos of the year, which is the Shabbos that before Rosh Hashanah, that is, then the Almighty Himself blesses the month. He blesses the new moon. So all the other months we bless. The Chodesh HaShvi, what the Torah refers to as the seventh month, the word Shvi means seventh, but also means satiated. It's filled with incredible energy. Shani and Kippur, Sukkot. So this month, the Almighty Himself blesses. And with the power that the Almighty blesses this month, this empowers us to be able to bless the other 11 months of the year. So where do we get the ability, the strength to be able to bless the other 11 months of the year? It comes from the fact that the Almighty blesses this month. And what is the blessing? So the blessing is the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, we always read Parshas Nitzavim. Sometimes we read Nitzavim together, some Nitzavim separate, but the reading always starts, Atem Nitzavim Hayom. Atem Nitzavim Hayom literally means you are standing firm today. So when it says Hayom today, we have various sources that the word Hayom, whenever it's used, is a reference to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is called Vayhi Hayom, Yom Adin Rabbah, day of great judgment. Hayom refers to Rosh Hashanah. So Atem Nitzavim Hayom, you are standing firm today, means that on the day of Rosh Hashanah, the whole world is being judged. The whole world is trembling. You, Yidden, says the Almighty to us, Nitzavim was standing firm, and you'll be blessed with all wonderful things for the entire year. And this empowers us to be able to bless the other 11 months of the year, and they should also be blessed with all wonderful things.
Is there a difference between where the Rosh Hashanah is from Shabbos?
There are many differences, but as far as this is concerned, the Shabbos before, just like when Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbos, the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh is Shabbos Mevarchim, and that's when we say the blessing for the new moon. Similarly, on the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, whichever day Rosh Hashanah is during the week, is the Shabbos that blesses the Rosh Hashanah. And we always read Parshas Atem Nitzavim on that Shabbos. So we're going to conclude the Shiur with the blowing of the shofar. And as during the month of El, it's customary to blow the shofar and to be aroused for teshuvah. Yeah, good gebench the yard for all Yidden, and being that the next few Wednesdays are going to be Yom Tov and Erev Yom Tov and everything like that, so we won't be having a Shiur again until after Yom Tov, but I won't be able to give the Shiur on the first Wednesday after Yom Tov, so it'll be 2 Wednesdays after Yom Tov. So it'll be the first Wednesday in Teshuvah, which is dying Teshuvah. You date in 29th of October.
Thank you very much.
Everyone,
Thank you.